Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining me at the International Conference on ICT for SARS 2025. My name is Budi Warman, and I'm delighted to present our paper titled Ethical and Legal Challenges of Artificial Intelligence Creativity in National Development. This study examines how artificial intelligence, particularly in its creative applications, can both enable innovation in governance and create new ethical and legal challenges. By looking at these dynamics, we aim to connect AI creativity to national development strategies. Artificial intelligence has moved beyond analyzing data into a new state we call AI creativity, the ability to generate novel content in national development. This means AI is not just assisting decision making, but actively creating policy simulation, visualizations, and even tools for citizen engagement. The challenge is that governance frameworks in Indonesia and worldwide are still largely designed for older analytical form of AI. This creates a gap. How do we address emerging risks such as algorithmic bias, accountability, and transparency in creative AI? This study examines how AI creativity can enhance participatory and adaptive governance in Indonesia, while at the same time responding to its ethical and legal implications. Ultimately, the goal is to propose regulatory strategies that are practical, inclusive, and sensitive to the local governance context. This study uses three governance models as its theoretical foundation. Traditional governance emphasizes efficiency and control in planning processes. Participatory governance develops to ensure inclusivity, transparency, and legitimacy through citizen involvement. Finally, adaptive governance highlights flexibility, resilience, and learning in responding to uncertainty and rapid change. Together, these three models provide the conceptual lens for this study. They allow us to assess not only how governance has evolved over time, but also how it might continue to adapt when confronted with emerging technologies. In this regard, AI creativity aligns more strongly with adaptive governance as it enables real-time feedback and scenario-based planning. This study followed a three-step process. First, we conduct a lateral and legal review to map AI governance frameworks, policies, and legal instruments both in Indonesia and internationally. This gives us the baseline for understanding where the regulations currently stand. Next, we carried a thematic analysis where we identify key risks, ethical challenges, and regulatory gaps that appear in the existing governance system. We apply the AI governance for governance framework. This allows us to synthesize the findings and propose governance strategies that respond to both global trends and Indonesian context. Through these steps, this study builds a structured foundation that leads directly into the finding. This slide shows how AI creativity contributes to both participatory and adaptive governance. For participatory governance, AI can visualize different policy options, making deliberation more concrete for citizens. It also facilitates co-design and engagement with stakeholders through tools like natural language processing and co-created platform. For adaptive governance, AI helps to generate the alternative scenarios for the future and support real-time policy adaptation. Capabilities like scenario generation, forecasting, and dynamic simulation enable governance systems to respond quickly as conditions change. In short, AI creativity enhances both inclusivity and flexibility. It makes complex data more accessible while strengthening adaptive decision making. This slide highlights the ethical challenge of applying AI creativity in governance. First, bias and fairness. AI can reinforce existing inequalities if data are unbalanced. To mitigate this, we need diverse data and systematic fairness audit. Second, transparency. Many AI models function as black boxes, limiting explainability and eroding trust. The response is to adopt explainable AI methods and enforce algorithmic openness. Third, accountability. It is often unclear who is responsible for AI-generated outputs. Here, clear governance responsibilities and human-in-the-loop oversight are essential. Finally, manipulation risk. Generative AI can shape narrative or distort public discourse. Safeguards include ethical guidelines, fact-checking, and stakeholder validation. Overall, ensuring ethical AI in governance is about finding the right balance, combining innovation with fairness, transparency, accountability, protection against manipulation. This led on to the legal and regulatory challenge. In liability, Indonesia lacks clear rules on who is responsible for AI-related harms, while the European AI Act already defined liability, allocation, and redress mechanisms for intellectual property. Ownership of AI-generated works and datasets remain unclear in Indonesia, whereas the EU has clarified IP right in line with corporate law. On the transparency, our disclosure and explainability requirements are limited, while the Euro Unit push mandatory documentation and transparency standards. And in terms of regulatory capacity, Indonesia faces weak international ratings and a shortage of air processors. In contrast, the EU relies on dedicated oversight bodies with regulatory authority. The broader point is that closing these gaps requires policies that are adaptive, context-sensitive, and aligned with global best practice, but also rooted in Indonesia's governance context. This presents the AI Go for Go framework, which is designed to embed governance safeguards throughout the entire AI lifecycle. It highlights five governance components: ethical standards are operationalized through code of conduct and fairness audits. Legal adaptability relies on tools such as regulatory sandboxes and adaptive lawmaking. Human oversight ensures accountability with mechanisms like human-in-the-loop review and clear rules for responsibility. Public participation is enabled through citizen input and participatory platform. Finally, regulatory capacity depends on dedicated AI bodies and cross-sector expertise. The key message is that effective AI governance requires not just rules on paper, but lifecycle safeguards, operational mechanisms, and multi-role government involvement to ensure accountability, innovation, and public trust. This is the direction our study recommends for strengthening Indonesia's governance capacity. This summarizes the key findings from our study. First, we find that AI creativity can serve as a governance tool. It enables more participatory and adaptive policymaking while also strengthening foresight and innovation within governance process. At the same time, there are serious risks. Bias, opacity, and manipulation are persistent challenges, and weak accountability undermine institutional trust. We also identify framework gaps. Current law and regulation remain underdeveloped, and institutional capacity for AI oversight is still very limited. From this finding, we propose four areas of policy recommendation: ethical standards to ensure fairness and transparency, institutional strengthening so that governance bodies can effectively oversee AI, inclusive governance by embedding citizen participation in AI-related decisions, and context-sensitive regulation which bridge global norms with local realities. The overall message is that effective AI governance requires closing the gap between standards and practice by combining safeguards, institutional support, and meaningful participation. This is highlight the conclusion and the next step from our study. First, there are clear AI creativity opportunities. Harnessing innovation for governance is possible, but it requires trustworthy safeguards to ensure responsible use. Second, bridging the gap remains essential. Indonesia needs to connect strategic vision with operational readiness and align local realities with global best practice. Third, we identify priorities for future research and action. This includes empirical testing of AI in governance, building explainability and transparency models, and advancing participatory design to strengthen equity and inclusion. Overall, our study underlines that AI in governance must balance creativity with accountability, innovation with regulation, and global standard with local adaptation. Thank you very much for your attention toward this presentation. We focus on the studies via risk, policy recommendation, and next step for AI governance. At this point, I'd be happy to take any question or hear your thoughts. You can also reach out to me or my colleague directly via the email provided. We look forward to continuing the discussion beyond this session. Thank you very much.